Right near the end of the NHL trade deadline on Friday, the New York Rangers made two moves, one giving a certain player an extension, and also we saw one more final trade of the 2024-2025 season for the New York Rangers. So in today's video, we're going to break down that extension and kind of how it impacts the Rangers going forward, and it's actually a pretty good one as well, I would say. But starting off here, let's take a look at the one-for-one trade that the New York Rangers did make right at the end of the deadline there, and that was Erik Brannstrom being dealt over to the Buffalo Sabres for Nicolas Aube-Kubel. And this is an interesting one. It's definitely not a major trade here, but it's a decent little trade to add in some depth there, kind of on that New York Rangers fourth line as kind of a depth forward, you could say. Aube-Kubel is definitely nothing incredible, but he is a solid kind of fourth line player, brings some physicality, is, decent defensively, isn't going to be much of a penalty killer, but can just bring a bit of physicality, a bit of energy to that fourth line when he's in there. We'll have to wait and see kind of how much playing time he actually gets, but he's a decent kind of depth forward to add in there. Kind of helps to replenish some of the depth after trading away a guy like, Jimmy Vesey, if you want to. So I think it's not a terrible deal. Adding in some more kind of grit and toughness isn't the worst thing, but he is also only 6 foot there. He's not some real penalty killer necessarily, so it's not like you're getting that from him. You're more just kind of getting a decent kind of defensive forward who can bring some physicality to the lineup there. And he also probably won't bring a ton offensively, as so far this season he ended up having 19 games played with the Sabres, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, also had 33 hits. Then last season, though, with the Washington Capitals, had 60 games played at 16 points, 6 goals, 10 assists, 159 hits, though, not terrible. And then the season before that actually was playing under head coach Peter Laviolette, where he ended up having, with the Washington Capitals, 47 games played, 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points, 96 total hits. So he has been a player under Peter Laviolette, so maybe Laviolette kind of wanted to bring in a guy he's familiar with to just kind of be a decent kind of fourth line option for him. That can make a bit of sense there. And we also do have a quote from Peter Laviolette as well, kind of talking about kind of Nicolas Aube-Kubel and kind of what he could bring to the lineup there, as he obviously is quite familiar with Nicolas. But Molly Walker ended up posting on X saying, New York Rangers head coach Peter Laviolette coach deadline acquisition Nicolas Aube-Kubel for a season in Washington. Peter Laviolette said, quote, "He's a straight line skater. He can hit. He fights once in a while. He's got a good shot. He can score goals. He can play at the NHL level. He's a good player. So I think to get him in the organization for depth was a really good pickup." And I would agree. I mean, this is not a guy who you're bringing in to play in your top 9 necessarily and to be a real impactful player, but you still need to have these guys who can bring, a solid kind of style of play on that fourth line, especially once it comes to the playoffs. And that's kind of a guy who you don't mind having on your fourth line. Obviously, he's not some elite shutdown winger, but he's going to bring some physicality. He's going to be a reliable kind of guy, can fight if he has to, can hit, can stick up for teammates, battle in the corners, battle in front of the net, protect Igor, whatever he's got to do there, protect teammates, and also, bring a bit of speed there, a bit of decent offensive capability at moments. I mean, he's not going to put up a ton of points there, but, he may get a clutch goal here and there for the team. So I think in general, it's a nice pickup, especially when you do consider a guy like Erik Brannstrom. It was probably not going to be much of an NHL player for this New York Rangers team. So to trade him away and get back a decent kind of, fourth line option for this team, a decent depth forward, is definitely not the worst idea, especially when, head coach Peter Laviolette does have some familiarity with this player already. And moving on here now, we're going to take a look at the extension the New York Rangers gave out at around 2:30 p.m. on Friday. Kind of approaching the trade deadline there, the Rangers ended up giving a 2-year extension worth $1.55 million per season to Urho Vakanainen, who I think has been a really solid, honestly good third pairing defenseman for this Rangers team. And when you really kind of break down this contract, I mean, it's only a 2-year deal, obviously starting next season there. It's a $1.55 million cap hit. So honestly, when you consider that for a more than capable kind of third pairing defenseman there, who I think brings a solid defensive game, is not obviously going to be much of an offensive threat, but can bring a little bit here and there, like most defensemen kind of can. And I just think in general is a solid kind of reliable defenseman back there. And I think so far him and Braden Schneider have actually been a pretty solid pair together. So I think for next season we very well could end up seeing them together on that third pair, which if that's what it is, I'm not completely against that. And, maybe the Rangers do end up adding in, another defenseman or something like that this upcoming offseason. Maybe Urho is that more like number 7 kind of guy possibly. And if he is, that's even better. But I wouldn't be surprised if, coming into next season there, your third pair is Urho, Vakanainen, and Braden Schneider, which I would not be against. I think with what Urho can bring, $1.55 billion cap it is more than worth it there. And with that kind of chemistry they're building, I think if they can kind of keep getting better together, that could be a really solid third pair going forward into the future with this Rangers team. Obviously, Braden's still quite the young player still, and he's got some room to grow in his game. And, Urho only being 26 years old still. He's not some, 29, 30-year-old kind of guy. He's obviously still quite young. Just turned 26 January 1st, so it's definitely possible. We have not seen the best hockey from Urho Vakanainen so far, which would be quite phenomenal. He's also a 6'2", 205-pound defenseman, so adds a little bit of size there. Obviously not quite as big of a guy like Carson Soucy, for example, who's about 6'5", but still 6'2" there, over 200 pounds is a nice kind of thing to have on the back end there. We saw, for example, the Florida Panthers and, Vegas in the past and the Blues and a lot of these teams that have won cups, they have these big and kind of tough defense cores, and the Rangers obviously brought in a guy like Carson Soucy, who definitely brings a lot of that, but Urho Vakanainen can definitely bring a little bit of that as well. He's 6'2", 205 pounds, has some good size to him, can move the puck fairly well, and, isn't going to bring a ton physically, but has that size there, which is quite nice. I think is a good, reliable defenseman, which is really kind of what you want for a third pairing kind of guy. He doesn't need to be some game breaker out there, but if he can just make those breakout passes, get the puck out of the zone, play some solid, reliable defensive hockey, I think that's all you really need to ask out of your third pair, and I think that's exactly what he can bring alongside a guy like Braden Schneider. So hopefully we can see that kind of somewhat young, kind of about mid-20s kind of duo do some pretty good stuff here going into the rest of this season. Hopefully they can be a pretty key success for the New York Rangers making the playoffs. And now taking a look at his stats to see so far what he's done with the New York Rangers, where he does have a total of 30 games played, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 total points. So he's actually producing a decent little bit there offensively, which is quite nice. He's averaging 1 second under 16 minutes per night on average, and also has a total of 26 block shots and 14 hits for the Rangers. Now, with the Ducks earlier this season, he had 5 games played before being moved there in that Jacob Trouba deal, where he also had 1 point there in those 5 games played, averaging 13 minutes and 36 seconds per night, having 7 block shots and 0 hits. So I would definitely say the New York Rangers won the Jacob Trouba trade when it was officially, Jacob Trouba going to Anaheim for Urho Vakanainen and a 4th-round pick, and the Rangers did not have to retain any money at all on that Jacob Trouba contract. I think that's an absolute fleecing by the New York Rangers, and you consider the Rangers got back a 4th-round pick and also got back the better defenseman, in my opinion. I mean, with the way Jacob Trouba was playing, for this team, I think at moments, sure, he was looking a little better than in previous times this season, but just in general, he was not playing that great, and the Rangers got back a pretty solid, only 26-year-old defenseman who just got locked up on a 2-year deal worth $1.55 million per season, which, if we're being honest here, is not a bad cap at all. When you take a look at this kind of, salary cap skyrocketing up over the next couple of seasons here, this $1.55 million is going to be, a little over 1% maybe of the cap. So I think in general, this is a really nice deal for the Rangers. Not a bad one at all for Urho as well. He's getting a decent little chunk of change there, but the Rangers lock up a really reliable bottom pairing caliber defenseman. And I definitely think he's a little more to grow as well, a little more kind of room to grow in his game there possibly, as he is still only 26 years old and does not turn 27 until next January. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. I do post every single day a video about the Rangers at 9 a.m. Eastern time, so definitely hit that like and subscribe button. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on Urho Vakanainen getting a 2-year extension, as well as the Rangers trading away Erik Brandstrom for Nicholas Aube-Kubel. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.